Support for this podcast comes from St. Alphonsus Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Clinics, with physicians, physical therapists, and trainers who treat sports and performance-related injuries, with locations across the valley. More information on services and locations at stalphonsus.org/stayactive.
From Boundary to Bear Lake, Fremont to Payette, Oahe to Oneida, there are interesting people, places, and histories in all of Idaho's counties. And Idaho Matters wants to share it with you with stories from all 44 counties that make up the Gem State. Email your ideas to idahomatters@boisestate.edu or use the Talk to Us feature in our app, available on Apple and Android, and tune in each weekday at noon for Idaho Matters.
From Boise State Public Radio, this is The Connector. It's Idaho's Daily News. Good morning. I'm George Prentice. This morning, we have a story on Bryan Kohberger. Yes, he is convicted and behind bars, but there was a court hearing yesterday regarding evidence in the Kohberger trial. We have that story coming up. We'll tell you about the folks who put the labor in Labor Day activities this holiday weekend. And we'll tell you how they're wrapping up the float season on the Boise River. It is Friday, the 29th of August, and here we go. Bryan Kohberger is behind bars, sentenced to life in prison for the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. But evidence in that murder case was still being argued over in an Idaho courtroom yesterday. Families of 2 of the victims are trying to keep any more crime scene photos from being released to the public. Leander James, an attorney for the families, told Latah County District Judge Megan Marshall yesterday that law enforcement was insisting that some of the photos had been blurred, but James said extremely grisly images of the crime scene were still clear to see in those photos.
There are portions of these images that show, without any blurring, pools of blood, splattered blood, dried blood, smeared blood. Blood is part of the body. It is factually inaccurate to say that the bodies were entirely blurred.
But Andrew Pluskell, an attorney representing the city of Moscow, argued that under Idaho law, the images had to be released now that the investigation was over, whether it wants to or not.
I don't know if this dispute is going to be resolved here simply by virtue of the fact that we are talking about a statute that seems to have perhaps unintended, perhaps intended negative effects.
Judge Marshall extended an existing temporary restraining order on those images, adding that she would soon make a final decision on the matter. Ada County homeowners can expect to see property taxes go up by 2.9% starting in October. This morning, James Dawson tells us more about the county's recently adopted budget.
Ada County Commissioners this week approved a $355.1 million budget, which is down nearly $2 million from the current spending plan. That includes a 2.9% bump in property taxes and staff raises of up to 4%. Commissioner Rod Beck says they're able to keep costs down by heavily scrutinizing and in some cases denying proposed new hires. But he says it's tough in the face of extra costs taxpayers have to cover from the state, like housing convicted inmates at the county jail.
We have from anywhere from 40 to 150 state prisoners. And according to the Sheriff's Association, that costs $147 a day for those prisoners, and the state pays the county $75. That has to be made up with property taxes.
Nearly half of the county's budget goes to public safety, including the sheriff's office and emergency services. 65% of the entire budget pays for personnel. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
Reminding us that American labor unions have stood for workers' rights since the 19th century, the Idaho Central Labor Council of the AFL-CIO will be celebrating on Labor Day with their annual picnic in Kristen Armstrong Park in Boise on Monday. Joe Maloney has served as president of the Idaho State AFL-CIO since 2018. He says the Labor Day tradition also includes collecting donations and canned goods for families in need.
get the show stock for the pantries. We ask all of our candidates that are running, we ask all the people that work in DFM and all the government agencies to come and have a burger and meet the working class, the actual people working in the field that don't get to, do what I do on a day-to-day basis.
The annual Labor Day picnic is September 2nd in Kristen Armstrong Park, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Idaho State Highway 55, Idaho's main north-south corridor, is expected to be extremely busy today and through the Labor Day weekend. As a result, Idaho State Police are partnering with local sheriff's office to add extra patrols on 55. In an official statement, ISP confirmed what too many drivers already know, that there is hazardous driving on State Highway 55, so they'll be paying particular attention this weekend on speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and unsafe passing. The official Float the Boise season ends after this holiday weekend. As Troy Oppie reports, a cooler summer did not chill demand to get out on the river this year.
Ada County Parks and Waterways Director Scott Kohberger says the number of floaters this year has been in the same ballpark as the last several summers.
We estimate about 150,000 visitors and residents have floated the Boise River from Barber Park to Ann Morrison Park this summer.
That's despite just 5 days in Boise this summer at or above 100 degrees. The National Weather Service Boise office confirmed there were 20 days in the triple digits last year, 11 in 2023, and the all-time high of 27 in 2022. River flows this year have stayed ideal, Kohberger says. That may have contributed to nearly one-third fewer calls for help on the river this season compared to a year ago, though there was one fatality. Mike Walker leads Boise Fire Special Operations.
I want to commend the public, the floaters, for actually taking safety seriously, because that's a 30% decrease is pretty dramatic.
If you're considering a float today, the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic Night Glow at Ann Morrison Park will limit late evening shuttle service for floaters, and there's no parking in Ann Morrison Park today. There's information at floattheboise.org. Troy Oppie, Boise State Public Radio News.
And that is today's episode of The Connector. Have a really good but safe holiday weekend. We will see you back here next week. To stay in touch through the weekend, check out BoiseStatePublicRadio.org or download the free Boise State Public Radio app. And thanks for listening.